Room 442 is brought to you by North Star Bets. That's a win.
Well, unfortunately, the drama continues for TFC as Toronto lose their away match to Austin in the final minutes of that. I'm Sarah Pararia, joined with Mikey Singh and James Sharman. Really quickly before we get into this, because we have a lot to break down with TFC, I just want to give a quick shout out to that Austin Stadium and the fans there, their tifo of Gru. It was amazing, and it was a fiesta. The entire time I was watching, I could hear chanting, singing, drumming. It felt like a good atmosphere. I'd just like to shout those guys out because they look like they were having a good time, unlike the gentlemen playing TFC. Mikey, this game was really tough because you mentioned it off air, but it wasn't a bad match they played, especially with the number of injuries, and losing it in the final moments of the game is just heartbreaking.
Yeah, I really do believe that had TFC seen that draw out, the narrative would have been a little bit differently, because we'd be talking about how it was a really good point on the road considering the fact that they're missing so many bodies, so many players. Lorenzo Insigne, another one that apparently went down with a lower body injury and did not travel to Austin. So the bottom line, though, is that they didn't, and it's led to more frustration brewing, not just within the fan base, but it seems like within the team as well.
Yeah, let's actually just jump right into that. James Bernardeschi came out after the match, and let's actually just see what he had to say.
Because every player put everything in the field, and this is the most important for me. But unfortunately, we lose the game again, and this is for me is no good. I'm sincerely, because I think this city, the fans, everybody don't deserve this. And I think maybe we need to change something. We need to a little bit more tactics. We need to an idea how we play, because this is the real problem for me. It's impossible to play like this when we play without idea. This is the big problem for me.
I mean, you can feel his frustration, but when you watch TFC play, a lot of the time they don't have necessarily an idea of, I don't know, just creating a play almost, and he's targeting maybe someone.
I've never heard a player sound so nice and friendly while throwing his coach under the bus. I mean, he just eviscerated Bob Bradley there. Simple as that. Whether you agree with it or not, there's obviously major issues between the top players and the coach right now. Now, listen, like Mikey said, that wasn't a bad performance. Would he have said that had it been 0-0? Is he basing those emotions purely on the last minute of play in a match where, again, you look at the starting 11. I know some players are coming back from injury very slowly. Hedges back in there. But you look at that starting 11, that's not an 11 that's going to win too many games because of the injuries, right? So it's really important to establish that is a good excuse, I think, for a lot of these results, the injury situation. But when the Italian players, in particular Bernardeschi, are turning on the coach, he's been criticised in recent weeks, Bernardeschi and Insigne, for their work ethic out on the pitch as well, and how they're performing, what they're doing. Are they listening to the coach? So regardless of who's at fault here, there's obviously a big problem here. And I think something's going to have to give. And generally speaking, it's not the players being moved out. So is it a move with Bob Bradley? We're going to find out probably pretty soon. But I mean, I haven't heard a TFC player being that pointed against the establishment since who was a guy? Who was a Dutch player?
Danny Kovermans.
Danny Kovermans. Yeah. No, and that's what must be. Oh, it's a long time ago now, isn't it? They were dark days.
That was dark days, and the fact it's even being compared in that same light, that tells you kind of where TFC are at right now. It's like the thing with this is that I think Bernardeschi is giving us some valuable insight into what he believes aren't the most beneficial training sessions. But at the same time, it's also, as a coach, it's tough to implement your ideas and implement your method of playing when you're going through so many changes in the roster. It's tough to build that consistency. And, you know, last week we were just talking about how Bob Bradley's job here is to manage the frustration of the Italians and not let it boil over. But it seems like it boiled over a little bit. So again, if that's only going to build this narrative going around that Bob Bradley needs to go, because there's clearly right now a pretty significant disconnect when, Bernardeschi is like the most beloved Toronto FC player from the fan base's perspective already. So the fact that he's gone out and he's saying this stuff, he's arguably right now your most important player as well, because he can stay on the pitch. He's been on the pitch throughough this whole stretch for Toronto.
So why
FC.
sub him off with half an hour left in a 0-0 game on the road, right?
Well, apparently he had a stomach virus earlier, like after
He had to use the wash.
Oh yeah, is that what it was?
That's apparently what it was. Like after Wednesday's match, he's going.
See on the bench the looks he was given. He didn't look too sick to me. He looked pretty pissed off.
Do you think, guys, he was wrong for saying this though? Because as I was kind of mentioning before, it's not been a good season for TFC even when they have everyone on the pitch. There's been issues. The way they play football, it's uninspiring. Just, I don't know, with a lack of a better word here, but that's the thing. He kind of was saying that. He was like, we don't really just know what's going on when we play. We need to practice more. And as you mentioned, it was probably the nicest way he could have said it. But was he wrong for saying that, Mikey?
No, I don't think he's wrong for saying that. I think he probably could have prefaced it by saying we're missing so many players. We're having to play with guys like Demi Antonoglu and Kobe. Kobe Franklin's done really well stepping in, but he's still a 19, 20-year-old homegrown Canadian kid who's getting his first minutes of Major League Soccer. So we probably could have prefaced it with that. But like James said, like this isn't one game that's making him say this. This is his overall experience here at Toronto FC. I would say even dating back to last season, that's making this boil over.
And not being in the room, it's hard to really judge. Has he spoken to Bob Bradley about this privately? Because you would hope that if he had those strong emotions, he's spoken to the manager privately already with his opinions. If then nothing happens, he's gone public now, right? He's thrown his manager under the bus publicly. That's a huge statement, right? Something's very wrong there to do that. So was he right? Well, maybe he's in his wit's end at this point and saying, man, I just can't do this anymore, But otherwise, I don't know if I like, listen, for us, it's fantastic. Office, right? But I don't think I like players and coaches going to go in front of the cameras and eviscerating people. But if it's the last straw, saying I just can't do this anymore, then which is all I think it probably was.
That's his power, right?
That's his power, yeah.
That's his
power.
Like I said,
the popularity of this guy is immense.
Yeah.
It makes it awkward though, right? Because listen, Bob Bradley has a son, right, called Michael, who's captain of the team. He's captain of the team, and now right now he's out with a foot injury. He's had surgery. We understand that, but listen, Bob's still Mike's dad, right? And when you're going publicly and saying these things about the captain's dad, I do wonder what the room's like right now. And when Michael comes back, he's not a guy to be quiet and sit in the corner, Mike, is he, right? He is the guy. He is the leader of that team. It's going to be fascinating.
It does raise those questions, right? It absolutely raises those questions. The other question I have, what is Lorenzo Insigne feeling in all of this?
He's sitting at home with his feet up on the couch.
Right?
Was he really hurt, do you think?
He better have been.
I do think he was. Do I also believe that Lorenzo Insigne might feel some of the same things that Bernardeschi's feeling? Yeah, potentially. But you know what? The reality is we don't know, because we haven't spoken to Lorenzo Insigne at all this year. He hasn't done media once. That's your multi-million-dollar player, and you're not getting much from him on the field. You might as well get something from him off the field, but you're not getting that as well. So I would love to know what his thoughts are.
Training was cancelled today, right?
This whole situation. There was no training from my understanding. I don't know if it was
at least no media access to training anyway.
At least, yes.
Which is strange.
Yeah, it's after a long weekend. Maybe that's why. But first Tuesday in a very long time that I can remember where there is no training.
Sorry, just remembering about Insigne, over the weekend there were rumors going around, and it was all over social media, that Lorenzo Insigne was in Turkey. Did you hear about this? Is this legit? Does anyone know anything?
I don't think
I'm just
legit.
Pulling it up now because I can't even remember now. It could. I'm sure it's a rumor. I hope it's a rumor, but there are actual links that he's potentially linked with Turkey as well.
Oh, with a club over there. He wasn't actually there, but the club over. Yeah, I've heard that before.
Yeah.
But again, it's a soccer rumor mill. 99% is nonsense.
Lorenzo Insigne, though, has barely played for TFC since he's been here. It's not really panning out, Mikey. That, the way that Toronto wanted him to. And the money that's going into this guy. I mean, I was texting Mikey on Saturday night when we were both watching the game, and I was like, wait, hold on a minute. Where's Insigne? Oh, couldn't fly, picked up an injury last minute. And I'm thinking, I would be so frustrated if I was another player, if I was a coach, as, part of the staff. Like, this is not, it's not working out.
No, and the way that the roster is built too, you need Lorenzo Insigne there in order to have really any success with this team. The biggest problem with him right now is he can't seem to stay healthy and stay on the pitch, and it's starting to build up a bit of a reputation of being a guy who's not really the most durable, and you absolutely need that when you're paying so much money and investing so much money into Insigne. Listen, we're less than a year into his tenure. Right? The year hasn't gone well, straight up, right? It hasn't gone well. Does that mean the whole signing is going to be a bust? Not yet, but it certainly seems like it's heading in that direction. And I know for a fact there's people above Bob Bradley that are, and I'm sure Bob Bradley, that's concerned about this signing.
I mean, imagine an MLSE sports team being so top heavy. Man, shocking.
Yeah.
Had to go there.
Yeah, he did.
What a week! I tell you what, if there are changes at TFC in whatever regard, I mean, what a time for MLSE.
It's all
that board's gonna be meeting every day.
Yeah, no, they're
so much happening.
They're going gray.
Going through a Raptors coaching change.
Yeah,
they're going through the Leafs' complete overhaul. It seems like right now, and then TFC.
Argos. Champions.
Really well, yeah. Hey, their
Champions.
president's Phil Manning, by the way.
Exactly, right.
James, I have to ask you, is Bob Bradley the problem here? Are you thinking that it might come down?
The coach is usually the guy that is the fall guy, right? Usually in these situations, you can't, fire or trade all the players, as your cliche goes. Is he the problem? I don't know. I'm not in that room.
Yeah.
That the injury run has been brutal, and it's a great excuse, but I've seen managers fired every season with their teams mired in the injury muck. Happens every year. Maybe it's time for a change. I don't know. Sadly, the guy is making all the money. If they don't like the manager, generally speaking, they have the leverage, and that's what happens.
Is he the problem? I don't think he's the problem. I think there's way bigger problems at the club right now. And if you want to talk just a football perspective, the guy that we just talked about, I think, is the biggest problem right now at Toronto FC. That's Lorenzo Insigne. They invested a boatload of money into him. They're not getting what they thought they were going to get out of him. The gamble did not pay off, per se. It wasn't supposed to be a gamble in the first place. It was supposed to be a sure thing, and it has been anything but that right now. So you take away Bob Bradley from this team, they're the next people who are in sort of the line of fire when it comes to owning the accountability and responsibility of what's going wrong here at Toronto FC.
Although they got Insigne, and we speculated last season, like about this time last year, if they get Insigne, great player, but he's pretty injury prone, not very resilient. We knew that. Did TFC, or were they just hoping they'd stay healthy?
I was doing streeters outside of TFC last season, talking to people about Insigne and saying, like, do you guys think that one player can fix the whole club? And they were, fans were obviously loving it as they would, but I think I've had my doubts about this guy from the beginning, and also just you can't just bring a player in to fix a club. Like, it doesn't work like that. But
unless your name's Javinko.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
But there's only one, right? That's a big old shadow from a small little fella.
Yeah. That's and it's haunting Insigne continuously. Yeah. Do you think he's going to stay?
We're next Monday. Right?
Yeah.
We're sitting here. Is Bob Bradley still coach?
I plead the fifth.
Oh wow! Okay.
Your red card, yellow card. That's going to be a yellow card, is it? You're not
sure. Hard to say. Is Insigne going to stay?
Would you walk away from the amount of money that he's making?
Limp away.
Yeah. He's getting paid to sit on his couch, I guess, so why not? Listen, there's so much to talk about TFC. They play again on Saturday, May 27th at BMO Field against Wayne Rooney's DC United, but I have a feeling we'll be talking to you much sooner about Toronto FC and everything that's going on.
Room 442 is brought to you by North Star Bets. That's a win.